We have both lineups ready here, as we do know both of them already. I'm not too sure, but for some reason I feel like NoRemorse are slightly better off here.
Yeah, indeed, and as you said, we're just moving back into the lobby because someone banned out a champion that was actually picked. So yeah, from the picks, which I've already forgotten because my memory is awful, I feel that the teams are just very even straight off the bat. I feel like Eternity have a slightly better composition in that if they just play safe in their lanes, then they'll just gradually edge ahead, but there's more room to make plays from NoRemorse, especially with like that Leona Lucian lane. Their lanes are just very easy to gank from Elisa's perspective, so there's chances to come into the game in that way, but at the same time, like, Eternity just have a very safe composition.
They sure do, as the bans, or the picks rather, are coming in quite quickly, and we hope to be jumping in this very first quarter final rather soon, because of course we want to know who is going to be advancing to that semi-final in our very own little super week, if you will, as we have had games all week long, and we will be having games for the rest of the week. So if you're bored on Saturday evening or Saturday afternoon, I believe, you can of course tune in. And I failed to mention that of course we also have this betting thing you can take part in. So if you want to bet, head over to Esports Venture or type exclamation mark bet in chat, and you can head over to the site yourself.
Yes, indeed. But as we tick down into the delay timer, we'll be taking a quick commercial break. So when we get back, we'll be in game with the first game between NoRemorse and Eternity. We will see you soon.
Touch the sky. Tonight we're coming alive. From the dust we will awaken, and life will fill our veins. But these are the moments that we live for. Keep it inside of me. Touch the sky. Tonight we're coming alive. Touch the sky. Tonight we're coming alive.
Hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the League of Legends EUS Challenger Series number 16, the quarterfinals between NoRemorse and Eternity Esports. I am Pulse, and I am joined by Nature.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and hello, Pulse. Now, this is going to be a fairly interesting match because we did have, of course, NoRemorse in that round of 16, pulling off something quite weird, if you will. Now, this time they have gone for a more conventional lineup, but it seems both teams are looking to clash here, as we do have Mover spotting out that enemy team. The glitter lance comes through, he gets jumped on, as we do have those light rays coming through. Sliver gets a little bit of damage down. Mover survives, as does Moarth, who took a lot of damage as well. And that is going to be the end of that. A little bit of aggression here, but no deaths yet.
Yeah, some pretty nice damage juggling from both of these teams, and because there was no kills, we just take stock of the summoners that we use, and it was literally only the flash from Mover, so it's not going to hurt them massively. But if anyone was going to lose their flash early, probably one of the worst people, if not the worst person to lose your flash, will be Mover, because he's going to want to be initiating from very early on into the game in that bottom lane, and without that flash, that just removes the ability to not only engage, but disengage if an engagement goes awry. So that's actually going to hurt them more than you might necessarily think in the first couple minutes.
Alright, so aside from that, we do have fairly standard stuff happening here, although it seems like we do have a lane swap on the side of Eternity. Oh, Fares looking to face active brush. Oh, takes a little bit of damage, gets a glitter lance on himself, will shadow dash out of that as he does survive. He has spotted out the invade, so he knows they are going to invade and take their blue buff. Luckily for Dan, he is starting off at that red buff, and he might just look and take the enemy blue buff as a result.
Yeah, that was a really nice timing steal onto the blue buff right here from Moarth and the rest of his team, and it's just now to see how they react to this, and Tarados going very aggressive in the mid lane. We'll have to see if he escapes from Mover's gank.
Mover decides against following up in the end. He did get in range to land the Zenith Blade, but in the end he had only leveled his Shield of Daybreak, so he did not manage to actually stun up or lock up Tarados, if you will. Now he's rotating over towards that blue buff area. He will be gifting that one over to Dan, as Dan of course needs that because he has seen that Moarth has stolen his very own blue buff. So everything resetting a little bit. It is going to be the 2 versus 1 lane, and well, I'm going to think actually Fares is better off in this 2 versus 1 lane than the Wrangler, because Wrangler is not such a strong farmer, especially not on the turrets, I believe.
Yeah, so Eternity have actually opted for the swap themselves, and I would doubt it's purely so that Nocturne could have gone for that invade, because at the moment with how the jungle goes and the vision changes, it's very unlikely people go for a 5-man invade and they get something out of it unless they fish for that first blood, but it's too risky to go in and just expect not for it to be counter jungled. It was a good timing call from Elise to get in there and pick that one up, but instead it looks like he's going to counter gank this more than anything, finding himself Moarth, actually going on to Mikey R.
Yeah, Mikey gets stunned up, takes a whole lot of damage, is forced to flashing them, but that's not going to be enough. First blood comes down for NoRemorse. Now Moarth looking to pick up move there. He does manage to do so. Dan now in real trouble as Moarth is looking to follow up with a double kill. Gets stunned up. Dan is going to be forced to flash. Moarth isn't quite done with him yet. Gets the tether on, and Dan is surely going to be going down. That is a double kill right there for Moarth, and that really wasn't what they wanted.
That was basically worst case scenario, but action in the mid lane.
Yeah, we do have Big Goose taking a whole lot of damage, trying to turn this one around on towards Tarados. Gets a good satchel charge up, and he does manage to pick up Tarados as a result. Great flash and a great bouncing bomb.
Guess the short fuse right at the right time, but Moarth looking for the next kill as well. Fraser the Springer doesn't quite connect. 3-2, and that kill in the mid lane evens up very slightly, but the bottom lane, 2 versus 1. Rengar picks up a kill. He's picked up a little bit of extra HP alongside the Doran's shield, also allowing him to pick up a vital health potion, so he's got a little bit more sustain in the bottom lane, and that's exactly what he needed, because you were just mentioning before, Nature, which is a very good point, that he's just not as good 1 versus 2ing as someone like Shen. But now he's picked up that kill. Now that there's 2 kills on Nocturne as well, he's got that cushion in which Nocturne can come down and help him. They know he can trade up against them, which also mitigates the problem with Lucian and Leona being so good at trading off against lanes, because they can just gank at any time, and they have that constant threat there now.
Alright, so Mikey are being forced to back away from the minions of his enemies, as Mover and Sliver are looking to zone him quite aggressively here. Meanwhile, that middle lane, Big Goose might be a little bit overextending here, as Moarth is heading towards him. Now he is deciding to go towards that bottom lane in the end, so Big Goose in no real trouble, as of course he is a little bit difficult to gank with the satchel charge, as Moarth has shown himself towards that bottom lane. He has been spotted out by the ward, so Sliver and Mover know he is coming, and well, of course they are going to back away, and nothing is going to actually happen here unless Moarth, well, flash tethers maybe, but I don't see that happening for now.
Yeah, like Rengar isn't an amazing gank lane, but if they catch them off guard, they have enough damage basically to kill someone if they're out of position, especially if Mover decides to go for the initiation, but being level 3, he probably won't, especially with this minion stack. Moa feels like he has to gank because he's still got the double buff, which is something that Nocturne generally doesn't have at this stage in the game. You'll have the double buff, you'll go for those ganks, then when it wears off, you'll just farm the jungle until you get to level 6, then you'll start ganking again. But because Nocturne's done so well and picked up another double buff, it means that he feels compelled to go for these ganks, even though that his gank lanes aren't really paying off. It's at this stage in the game that Nocturne might even want to be aggressive in the enemy jungle, or just carry on farming.
Yeah, Big Goose might be in trouble here, gets some of those auto attacks on towards Moarth. And as a reaction to that, we did see Dan going fairly aggressive in that top lane, as he did smite a minion and started pushing fairly hard. They didn't really capitalize on that maybe as much as they wanted, as he is rotating over towards that middle lane. In the end, Moarth steals away some of those wraiths, and he backs away, as he will be hitting level 6 fairly quickly. As a result, of course, Dan is just going to steal off some wraiths for his own, so that is going to be once again a fairly even trade here, and no team just pulling ahead just yet.
Yeah, like, one of the more subtle things in this game is the junglers are kind of cancelled each other out, because Elise can't necessarily counter-gank Nocturne, because Nocturne has picked up those 2 early kills, because usually Elise should be able to one-on-one Nocturne, no matter where she's at in the game, but because he picked up those 2 kills, she can't. So instead she's having to go for these ganks, which she might not necessarily want to. She can't be aggressive, cannot invade Nocturne's jungle just in case he's there. So Elise has kind of gone into this more of a farming role, and her lanes do lend herself to that. But they're just very difficult lanes to gank anyway, like Rengar, Orianna, and also the kind of more like defensive lane of Jinx and Lulu is very difficult to just get in the face of.
Alright, so we do have that Nocturne, who will be hitting level 6 fairly soon now. He isn't going to hit it just yet, because of course his wraiths were stolen away. He will be picking up his red buff here, and then he is going to be level 6, so we might see a gank on the or as a result of that. Meanwhile, the middle lane, we do have Mikey going aggressive on towards Big Goose. He has been shielded. Shockwave comes in. Big Goose takes a whole lot of damage, being forced to use the barrier. Gets a good satchel charge off, but he gets flashed upon by Tordos, and he doesn't quite manage to pick up the return kill.
Yeah, and that's exactly why we're seeing so much more Rengar nowadays here in Nature, is because he can just be in that lane, great, but if he leaves the lane, he could be ganking, because he's got that stealth, he's got the incredible ultimate, and when all these guys start hitting level 6, that's really when we start seeing these fireworks start to fly, because Nocturne, Shen, and also Rengar, from what we've seen, will be able to go for these ganks and start making these trades happen. Top tower falls, Fire Ants might actually go down here.
Yeah, gets locked up by the Flame Chompers, desperately trying to get out. Super Mega Death Rocket doesn't quite connect now. Meanwhile, that bottom lane, we do have Moarth looking for that paranoia, I believe, as he is lurking around the side, as he does decide against it in the end, and he will be picking up himself his blue buff. So once again, no real kills happening just yet, aside from, of course, that kill in the middle lane. Big Goose looking to push out that middle lane for himself now, maybe try and get some damage on that turret with those minions, as we do have Strategas and Nikos looking to back away here, as he, Strategas is sitting on 2,000 gold, and he will be picking himself up that BF sword.
Yeah, Nocturne's biggest problem at this point is he can't just use Paranoia and go for a gank. He has to use Paranoia, one, when he has an opportunity to gank, but also when Shen's ultimate is either down or Shen is being suppressed. At least looking for the gank in the bottom lane.
Yeah, this is going to be dangerous for Mikey. He doesn't quite get stunned as Moveard misses that, but we do have, of course, the Zenith Blade as a result, and Mikey goes down. No real problem as I feel like he was maybe a little bit overextended, but we do have right now the Jinx and the Lulu being called over there towards that bottom lane to defend it for themselves, and well, I feel like this is not going to be ideal for NoRemorse in this case.
Yeah, now that we've had the swap up, they can't immediately just rotate towards the dragon, and also having that pressure from Nocturne means that they can't just go for objectives whenever they want, because he just has presence wherever he is on the map. Shen is also kind of like the counter to that. That's why Nocturne can't just use Paranoia whenever he wants, but it's still annoying for either of these teams, and that huge mobility kind of just ends up cancelling each other out.
Alright, so the thing is here, if Fires decides to use the Stand United, we do have, of course, Mykiar, who is not able to actually interrupt that one. So if he might have a dragon fight erupting here, I feel like Mykiar is well, going to walk away with his tail behind his legs because he's well, in that top lane, and his counterpart just left to help his team, which might not be ideal for Eternity in this case, but we are just going to have and see as Sliver and Mover right now trying to defend that turret from taking too much damage, as they are backing away to maybe pick up some items for themselves. No, not a whole lot of gold on Sliver, so he's just going to pick up those golems and return to lane as Mover picks himself up the Sidestone.
Yeah, like the bottom lane needs to have gone back right there if they're ever going to have a chance of engaging on the bottom lane. Paranoia used in the mid lane.
Yeah, Big Goose gets knocked back, but oh, sorry, here we have Dan trying to defend him on Moorth. Takes so much damage, he gets repelled upon. Dan trying to follow this one up, he speeds himself up. Moorth and he is going to get out of this. Dan takes a little bit too much damage for his own liking, and he will be backing away, so no kills just yet. But we do have the Super Mega Death Rocket coming in. Will it hit Big Goose? Yes, it will! There you have it, and that is Big Goose going down.
Awesome rocket from across the map, and Turados will also be pushing in the mid lane, engaging the bot lane.
Yeah, Zenith Blade comes down on Strategas, as we do have him flashing out of that. Right now, Mover trying to follow that one up. Cullen coming out, takes a whole lot of health out of Nikos. And Nikos will be surviving just for now, as we do have them backing away on either side, both sides rather. And, well, once again, no real kills, but I feel like Eternity is slowly pulling ahead here.
Yeah, we had like a small burst of action, but the only way action's ever really going to happen in this game is either junglers ganks or like the teleport from Shen. Apart from that, unless they're fighting it with an objective, the lanes will not like naturally go toe to toe. Bottom lane is the only place that's really going to happen, but there's so much disengage from what we just saw there with like Flame Chompers and the rest of it, where they're never really going to get a kill if Eternity play it right, that being from Strategas and his support of Nikos. So in that sense, this is going to be a pretty prolonged game, and that's something we're seeing a lot in 3.15, is that these games get longer and longer, but I'm not sure if he has the disengage for this one.
Flash Zenith Blade comes out, Strategas taking a whole lot of damage. Ignite is not going to pick him up, as Moarth is there to reinforce him if needed. He does decide against going deep in the end. Sliver and Mover burning their flash, and they did not get a kill in the end. They did, however, get a whole lot of damage down on Strategas, so he was forced to back away. Right now, they are looking to push down that bottom lane, and it seems like they might be getting a lot of damage down on that turret. North is here to defend it, but I'm not sure he actually can, as we do have Sliver and Mover actually well backing away in the end, or are they? Because they might be looking for a Zenith Blade here. Catches it on towards Moarth. Moarth takes a little bit too much damage, and he is just going to back away. Super Mega Death Rocket comes in, but that isn't going to be quite enough to be lethal for either of these two.
Yeah, and I'm thinking Mykiar was hoping that no one really saw what he did in mid lane, because he came in with the ultimate, then realized Ziggs had just gone for the blue donation, and then his ultimate ran out, and then he just walked back up top lane. So that's an ultimate that's going to be down for another minute, which isn't going to hurt Mykiar too much at the moment. His only goal right now is just to carry on pushing that lane. Shen can't really push him out, but neither can Mykiar. He can kind of just wear him down, but the farm is way more important, so we're not really going to see anything happen at all. So in the mid lane, we've also got Orianna and Ziggs. Again, we've already said not too much is going to happen. So, but in the bot lane, though, they're still going toe-to-toe.
Yeah, Dan almost instantly picking up Nikos right there. No real problem for him, as we do have Strategas trying to get out of there. No problems with getting out of there. In the end, that was a fairly easy kill for Mover, who was able to lock up the Nikos fairly quickly in the end. So we do have a lot of pings coming down to indicate the position of wards, but once again, not a whole lot of action.
Yeah, so what we were saying before was that in patch 3.15, because the kind of snowball meta has, like, basically disappeared, we're having these longer and longer games. Even if there's a lot of team fights, and even if there's, like, huge swings in momentum, the games will still go on for at least half an hour, if not to 40 minutes. So you'll see champions like Mikey R's Rengar just coming into their own, because champions who get progressively stronger and will just kind of itemize that, or even just get there through being that champion, then they start to come into their own because they're significantly stronger. So at the moment, these teams are so evenly matched that it's unlikely we'll see all that much action unless someone overextends or the junglers make an incredible play like we saw at the bottom lane. And I feel Eternity are just being a little too aggressive. And it's weird to say that because otherwise it creates a very boring game, but they just don't need to be aggressive. They can just farm out and be stronger.
Alright, so we do have Mover clearing out that ward as Dan was spotted out. So they know Dan is in that bottom lane. They might try and capitalize on the back of that, as Moarth is maybe looking to get a Paranoia in here, as that one is available. So we do have Dan backing away in the end because, of course, he was spotted. They know he's gone because that ward is in that Tribush. As here comes Moarth, looking for that Paranoia once again. He has been spotted out himself. Meanwhile, in that middle lane, you might have Tordos in trouble, running away. He gets hit by the Cocoon, takes a whole lot of damage. Here comes Dan, chunking away quickly. We do have that Super Mega Death Rocket, or the Mega Inferno Bomb rather, coming down. Tordos desperately trying to get out, takes a whole lot of damage, but it's not going to be quite enough as he gets a good shockwave in. Den barely survives due to the Stand United, and he will be backing away, so no real kills here. Mikey might be looking for a pick here on towards Big Goose. Paranoid comes in. You have also got that Super Mega Death Rocket, not quite connecting this time. Satchel Charge is there to knock up Moarth and Mikey R. Mikey R right now is trying to get out himself, but he tries to turn in the round on Firez, and once again, no real kills, but a little bit of skirmishes all over the board.
It's kind of absurd how much disengage is available from both these teams and individually on each of these characters. So that means in these smaller skirmishes, when the damage isn't quite as bursty as it would be in a team fight where there's 5 people just wailing away at one target, they have time just to kind of predict when the skills are going to come out and then flash away from it, or just use their natural abilities to get away from it. And as a result, not really much is happening. Just some of the spells are being burnt, and it's going to get to the stage where these guys are just going to have to keeping track of these different cooldowns and then capitalizing when they have more than their opponent. But apart from that, there's no opening for these players to really get in the grill of the opposing team.
Right, for now, as you said, no real action just yet. We do have Dan sneaking in towards that bottom lane. There has been a pink ward in that river, or in that lane, of course, to make sure Dan can get in there unseen, as Stratagas will be shooting that zap in there to maybe spot someone else. Mover throwing that solar flare in. Stratagas is in real trouble, is forced to flash in the end, so that is the end of that. And Dan walks away with yet not another kill.
Yeah, I feel like the biggest problem for NoRemorse right now is that Elise has been putting so much attention in mid lane, bot lane, not too much has been happening, and Rengar is basically impossible to gank at this stage, especially with his ultimate, that ganking Rengar just isn't really an option because Shen doesn't have the damage as he would in the first couple levels, but he's gradually getting stronger. He's gradually edging ahead of Shen, even though he was at like a 20 CS deficit when he first arrived in that lane. So over time, I feel like Eternity will just kind of grind NoRemorse down, but it's going to take a very long time for that to happen, and like kills and bigger team fights will kind of swing that in the opposite direction. So Dragon has just spawned Moarth and Terados sitting on that, and we are going to have, well, a potential collapse coming in from NoRemorse.
Firez hasn't got his Stand United available, so this is going to be a 4 versus 4. In goes Dan. He doesn't quite manage to get the Dragon, trying to finish off Tordos, takes a whole lot of damage. Do have a good shockwave coming down. Dan is forced to get out of there desperately, as we do not have the zap connecting. Dan not quite dying yet to the Super Mega Death Rocket, so Dragon being picked up for Eternity, and no kills once again.
Yeah, Dragon will go down, and NoRemorse aren't really willing to fully commit to a team fight because Eternity definitely are stronger, but Eternity by the same token cannot go for a fight themselves because they just don't really have But they do have the engage, they have Mowath, and they also have Taurodus, but they're never really in the position where they can utilize that combination, because either they're vying over objectives and they're there first, so they can't initiate on the split team, or they're in the respective lanes and they don't have these abilities to combo together. So neither team really wants to fight, so everyone's just going to go back to laning phase. It's 20 minutes into the game, but this is exactly what 3.15 is at the moment, everyone just staying in laning phase for half an hour.
And that bottom turret hasn't fallen yet, which is, well, not really unusual, but we don't see that too often these days because of those 2 versus 1 lanes. But this time, again, this is, well, a fairly slow game for now. They will be taking that one down on the side of NoRemorse, so that is going to be their very first turret of the game. As, well, they will be backing away as a result. Picking themselves up some nice items. Tordos picks himself up the blue buff, and Big Goose has picked himself that one up already. So once again, a little bit of a lull, but that might be trouble for Mikey, as we do have Dan looking to maybe get a gank in there from the side. Perez shows himself, and Mikey will just be backing away. So well, that is the end of that.
Yeah, it's most likely going to be a farming fest for the next, forever, really, here, Nature. Like, neither team wants to go for a fight or can go for a fight. So, unless someone trips up or the next dragon happens, nothing are really going to happen at all. So, I guess we've got a little bit of time to talk about the item build. And Rengar, as we've said, is edging ahead of Shen and is therefore just a little bit further ahead in terms of item build. Has picked up the Spirit Visage already and also has this Sunfire Cape. And traditionally, when you have basically your jungler and your top player both able to build damage and both able to build Bruiser, then you can have one of them go damage. But Mikey just doesn't even seem interested in that, and have both gone for a very tanky build. And I guess against Shen it makes sense because he'll be the one who's dueling against him, but they're just kind of lacking damage at the moment because Orianna hasn't really ramped up in damage just yet, has opted for the Athenes and Holy Grail, which is a more conservative build. Jinx is their main source of damage at this stage, and even though, like, Rengar won't be able to, like, duel Shen if he goes pure damage, but if he carries on getting killed, he'll kind of overcome that threshold to the point where he can kill that one-on-one opponent, and that's a chance for them to utilize that split pushing pressure. But as it is, by both of them going tanky, then they just cancel each other out and they just keep on farming.
Meanwhile, that bottom lane, we did see a little bit of a gank attempt coming out of Moworth. Did decide to back away in the end because he was spotted out. So that is once again going to be the end of that. But meanwhile, that top lane, we might have Mikey in trouble here. We have Dan coming in there. Mikey gets taunted up by the Shadow Dash. Now that Cocoon landing as well. Mikey is going to be in real trouble here if they decide to follow that one up. Mikey gets away in the end as he did use the ultimate. Meanwhile, in that middle lane, might have trouble erupting as well. Big Goose being forced away from his turret. This might be a turret for that Eternity team, but we do have a move there and Dan heading over there. It seems like we might have some action erupting here shortly, but, well, both teams are a little bit hesitant here.
Yeah, like, Eternity seem to have just gotten bored with the constant farming state of the game, have just clumped up in the mid lane, and as a result, Sliver will just carry on pushing the bottom lane, so they have to react to that, and everyone goes back to farming. So, the reason they went into the middle lane is because they could push down the turret, but they don't necessarily have to. It seems just to be the boredom factor. 1 minute 40 left on the timer on Dragon, and both these teams might flirt around with the idea of fighting, but more than likely, it will just be NoRemorse just giving this up to Eternity once again, because they don't necessarily want to go for a team fight. They can disengage from a team fight, but they can't necessarily win one. So it's probably going to be Eternity picking up the next dragon. So unless we see a kill on one of these lanes, like Dan coming around for Mikey R, not much else is going to happen.
And Mikey has got his ultimate up in 10 seconds, so he's trying to delay as fast as possible, or as good as possible. His first to flash in, and we do have that repel coming out on the back of that, so Mikey will be getting away as he is a little bit too tanky at this point. He will be maybe looking to pick up his, or the enemy's blue buff of his, as Firez will be deterring him from that in the end. So he does back away, and wow, here comes the super mega Inferno Bomb, the
one
Inferno
of those.
Bomb. Yeah, one of those indeed. As Morath is looking to steal this one. Dan might be in trouble here as Firez is locked up. Mikey Solar Flare coming out. Mikey surely going to go down here. There you have it. That is, well, one of the not so common kills in this game being picked up.
Yeah, and that was just over blue buff. It's it's just unnecessary risks being taken at this stage because both these teams, you can just see them getting bored. Like, that's the only reason people are going for these engages, not because there's any real strategic value to them. And because there's so much wave clear, like by picking Jinx, as long as Jinx is there, she'll just two-shot a wave using the rocket, and as long as Ziggs is in the lane, he'll also just give a wave using his abilities. So sieging is really not an option unless you win a team fight, and going for a team fight is not an option because you won't win it.
Alright, for now it is looking like NoRemorse are taking their turn in sieging that middle turret. They are looking to rotate over towards that dragon area, but of course they are a little bit hesitant. Marth might be in trouble, but he is being backed up by 2 of his team members, so no real fights erupting just yet. We might see a fight happening in the next couple of minutes. Stand United is available, the dragon is up, and both teams are, well, thinking about the idea of actually starting off the dragon. But then again, it might be a little bit too dangerous. Moarth gets caught, or he doesn't in the end, because Mover is just scaring him away.
Yeah, and it looks like NoRemorse are making some sort of pushing advantage, and have picked up the middle turret. And it's very unlikely they'll go any further than that. Dragon is now an option, and both these teams might start to fight over it. Pings are going down, so we might finally see a fight.
We might indeed, but we might not, as NoRemorse are, well, a little bit hesitant once again of starting this one off. Big Goose is waiting on the side to maybe get a pick or 2, as meanwhile that middle lane, Strategas might be in trouble. Dan gets a good cocoon off Strategas, taking so much damage. He gets a lockup on towards Dan. Dan will not be following him through that wall, and Strategas did decide to flash in the end. Right now, Mover is getting encircled, but I do think he'll be able to get out of there. We do have the paranoia coming down towards Sliver. Sliver flashing the shockwave, as right now he's desperately trying to get out of there. Stand United being used on him. So you do have the taunt coming down towards Moarth. Moarth being followed up by Sliver. Doesn't quite manage to get the kill. Super Mega Death Rocket comes in, or the Inferno Bomb rather, as we do have no real kills happening just yet. And both teams manage to come out with all of their members. Meanwhile, that middle lane, Big Goose might be in trouble himself, but he does dodge the flame chompers, so he gets out as well.
Yeah, the slight advantage picked up by NoRemorse in terms of HP means that Eternity can't really go any further. Super Mega Death Rocket just tags Ziggs on the way out, and it means that they can just pick up the dragon. So they finally pick something up in return. Mikey R picks up the top turret, because Firez had to go into the bottom lane. So these are kind of like big picture plays, but there's no real kills going down. Because these fights are so infrequent, everyone has everything up when you hit the next fight. So that means everyone will have flash as well. So in these kind of micro fights, people get taken down to maybe like 40% HP, and then they just flash away and nothing really happens. So because of that ultimate being used from Shen, that's the only thing that NoRemorse has to be scared of, is Mikey R just sitting in that lane and continuously pushing. Like, he doesn't have to go anywhere else. He just needs to stay top lane and make sure that Shen teleports elsewhere so he can be there to capitalize on it.
And maybe this is just wishful thinking of me, but I feel like at some point these two teams are going to clash, and then we are going to have a little bit of an explosive fight, which is going to result in, well, one team massively pulling ahead. But once again, that might be wishful thinking, as we are having Mover rotating over towards that top lane. They are looking to pick up that top tier 1 turret, which, well, isn't looking to be very hard for them. Mover, or Mikey rather, and Nikos are looking to defend that one. Mikey gets some good hits off on towards Firez. Firez and Mover back away in the end. Ooh, Nico takes a little bit of poke, but nothing lethal just yet.
Getting to the stage in the game where Eternity are definitely still ahead in terms of gold, in terms of the farm that they have on their team, because of the way the laning phase is being going. And it seems like they should be going for the engage, but they can never really just clump up for that. Top tower will probably fall very shortly. They're keeping 2 people up there as well. But the only real engage we're going to have is going to have to come from Eternity, because they have multiple ways to get that done. Mikey are using his ultimate, then jumping in with the leap, and then having Orianne's ultimate on top of that, or the exact same thing with Moarth's Paranoia. That's the 2 kind of avenues of initiation, and they have decent disengage, or using the Wild Growth for more initiation. But apart from that, it's very difficult for NoRemorse to go for their own engage, so more than likely we'll see Eternity kind of, like, NoRemorse is going to have to force Eternity's hand for them to go for an engage, but they don't feel threatened enough to go for that yet.
They surely do not, as Big Goose is right now defending that middle lane. He knows Mikey R is there because Mikey R is sitting on a ward, as Big Goose is not having real trouble, of course, clearing out those waves with the recent slight buffs towards that Ziggs, which of course enabled him to clear out those waves a lot faster. Dan just stealing that blue buff from Big Goose. I believe that was unintentional, but we might never know, as in the meantime Mover and Sliver have rotated over back towards their very own bottom lane, and they are looking to put some pressure there. But once again, nothing really happening. We do have Mikey R getting taunted up in that top lane, but he is way too tanky to deal with by Fires and Dan just alone.
We're basically just watching 5 versus 5 farming simulator, because you can just see by in the farming scores that how the game has been going. 300 from Orianna, okay, even in an action-packed game, you might have an Orianna doing that because we do have some talented mid-lane Oriannas, but so does Jinx, and so does Ziggs, and so does everyone else on the board. They have exceptionally good CS because they haven't had to do anything else. So we're going to ramp up in items very quickly, more or kind of faster than usual, and that doesn't necessarily benefit either of these teams. Maybe a slight advantage to Eternity, but definitely in the mid game, and then when you eventually get to the late game, NoRemorse are just going to be in the same stage. Jinx has a little more damage, and Lucian maybe perks up more towards the mid game, so that might be a chance for them to win these kind of smaller fights, which is only really what's going to happen. But because no one has necessarily built super squishy, maybe Orianna at a push, but more than likely when she starts getting threatened, she'll build into like a Zhonya's Hourglass. But no one has felt threatened enough or has gone for a squishy enough build like Mikey R. He's just gone basically raw tank. So ganks aren't really on the cards anymore for the junglers. So that's not even where like any action will happen from that kind of avenue either.
NoRemorse, as you said, maybe getting a little bit bored here as they are putting some pressure in that middle lane. They are looking to rotate over towards that dragon area, because that will be coming up in around 1 minute, as we do have Eternity making themselves ready for that one as well, as they are backing away, spending the last amount of money they have to get some proper items, and readying themselves up for that dragon fight that might just happen in the next couple of minutes. Dragon coming up in around 40 seconds. NoRemorse, I don't think they have the timer on this one because they checked it out and it wasn't there, and then they just backed away here. They might be looking for a cheeky pink here on towards Tordos, but they have been spotted out, I believe, by that ward. No, they haven't actually. So here comes Mover, gets a good solar flare off, but Tordos is a little bit too far away to follow up on that one.
Yeah, so now both these teams are trying to make smart plays by utilizing the Fog of War, and again, that's not really helping because no one wants to be aggressive, as we've already mentioned. They're just going to go ahead and farm. Dragon being up in 10 seconds might cause a fight to happen, especially if we see a clump coming in from NoRemorse. That allows Eternity to go for initiation, because all they need is to land Paranoia, have the ball on top of him, and then to jump into the clump of them. And by starting this, that might force NoRemorse's hand, or they'll just try and steal this. As long as Elise goes over the wall, they might have to go for a fight. In fact, they're just going to try and steal and Eternity pick up the dragon and will most likely go back to farming. In fact, they are grouping up towards the mid.
The Mover might be in trouble here. We do get a good cocoon off, or we do have Dan getting a good cocoon off on towards Tordos. Dan United being used, Moworth getting followed up on. Sinnet Blade comes out, good shockwave, pulls in 3. Super Mega Death Rocket coming out as well. Dan getting out, being forced to get out of there. He does go down in the end. That is 2 kills being picked up for Eternity already. Now they're turning their attention to Fires. Fire is going down for the double kill. They are looking to follow that one up, as we do have Strategas getting excited, of course. Sliver is in real trouble here, is being forced to flash. Mikey R isn't allowing him to get out of there. Big Goose being forced to flash as well. I don't think that's going to be enough, and just like that, Eternity aced.
Well, that was unexpected. Like, NoRemorse just didn't need to go for a fight. Like, their best call right there was to do nothing. But it's just exactly what we were saying. Like, it may not be the optimal play, but it's the more fun play to go for a fight. And as a result, they lose the inhibitor. They might even just finish off the back of this.
Are you kidding me? We just had a 30-minute game, which was a complete farm fest, and then they're looking to close it out just like that. Second Nexus turret going down here. Moworth is looking to go down, or is he? Because they do manage to take out move there, and just like that, oh my god, Eternity, finish it out.
That was a very strange game here, Nature. Very, very strange indeed. I'm hoping that's not representative of